I think I was about 4 years old when my sister, only 16 months my senior, and I went out to look for mushrooms. The problem was not that we had limited knowledge of mushrooms. We did. The problem was that it was the crack of dawn. We were wearing our nightgowns and rain boots, and no one knew that we had taken off. And then we, of course, got lost, without knowing that we had gotten lost. I don't remember much of this event. I only remember 2 places that in the village that we perused for mushrooms unsuccessfully. And I remember being found. And I can tell you, there was no party promise of my mom when she told us to get into the car. The gospel text for today includes 2 of the 3 lost and found parables, the lost sheep and the lost coin. And then there's the other one we read a couple of months ago, the prodigal son. They all 3 belong together. But first, Jesus tells these parables of lost valuable property. 1 out of 100 sheep has wandered off, and the shepherd goes searching for it. The shepherd's action appears to be common sense, because Jesus is asking, who of you would not do that? And which of you would not look for money when it fell to the floor and search until you find it? Who would just give up 1/10 of the money they had? Because you also know it must be somewhere. You just had it. You just saw the sheep, and you just had the money in your hands, but now it's gone. So you search. Common sense. However, as these parables are only about valuable property, they often fail to engage our emotions. Now the sheep has run off. That might elicit a little higher heartbeat, but more frustration than fear. And developing any emotions about a lost coin today, for us here in Palo Alto in 2025, is even harder. But the parable about the prodigal son, the younger of 2 sons who asked for his share of inheritance, goes out into the world, breaks off the contact, loses all his money, and makes his way back to his father, this parable hits home immediately. All these parables have often been misinterpreted, which help to create an inside and an outside. And of course, the sinners and the lost people that these parables speak about are on the outside. They don't sit in church. They need to be found, healed, converted. But if we take a close look, that's not what Jesus says. The shepherd had all 100 sheep until 1 wandered off. The woman had all 10 coins until 1 fell to the floor and she had to search for it. We like the image of ourselves on the inside. I go to church. I'm righteous, blameless. The problem is outside of these walls. We like to appear without bruises and blemishes. Truth is, we're not. Each of us has something that wears on us in one way or another. We go to church because we know we're not righteous. And sometimes we go to church because we're broken, saints and sinners at the same time. And sometimes this brokenness can make us feel lost. We feel like we don't belong. We stop trusting. We can't feel God anymore. Be it through illness, the death of a loved one, difficult, toxic, or breaking relationships, stress and trauma. Suddenly, God doesn't seem good. It feels hollow. Prayer feels false. Sundays feel hard. And bread and wine feel more like an accusation than forgiveness. Now let's shift perspective. Do you still remember the story of my unsuccessful mushroom search at the beginning? Being a mother now, I can imagine the fearful thoughts my mom must have had when she found our beds empty and she couldn't find us anywhere near the house. when we wouldn't respond to her calling our names? Did they decide to go swimming in the village pond? Did they get into someone's car? The rising panic she must have felt when she drove through the streets of the village, only to find us at the very far end of it. Can you imagine that feel, that panic, that fear in mind and body? Then I want you to apply it to the shepherd and to the woman who lost the coin. And I want you to feel it, and I know it seems exaggerated, as the parable only talks about sheep and money, but it's an existential search. This is God looking for us when we are lost. And God is looking on the outside. God is where God is needed, in the war and hunger zones of this world, with the one who's desperate, lonely, hungry, sick, beaten, without a home, without a country. God is where all seems lost. Reading the parables this way also means that we must let go of our picture-perfect images of ourselves and others, allowing ourselves to get lost, trusting that God is looking for us, believing that we are worth looking for, allowing ourselves to be found. Being lost and being found are not permanent states in our faith life. We get lost. God continues to look for us, and we can be found again. And the experience will teach us about vulnerability, empathy, humility, and patience. And when we are found, when we are coming home, bruised and tired, but home, then the community is invited to celebrate. Not because we fixed ourselves, rather because we showed up unmasked and vulnerable, and because God never stopped searching. Our community here is not a gathering of the already perfect. They don't exist. But we're a table where the lost and found sit side by side, held together by God's grace. Welcome home.